Hello, I'm happy to introduce to you Everett guitar number 824. This one is fall. It's number 3 in my final 4 series, spring, summer, fall, and then winter is coming next, but this one's fall. So there's a lot to tell you about this guitar, so I think the best thing to do is start at the top and run through it, and hopefully I won't forget anything, but we'll see. There's a lot to remember. It's a cornucopia of stuff. So it starts with a peghead, flared peghead, has a mother of pearl logo, go to 510 tuners. It has the Cheris tuner buttons. I think Bill just does a beautiful job with these, with the koa wood center and the ebony on the outside. Looking at this, I'm reminded that the images under the fluorescent light with the video aren't as good as the photographs. The photographs aren't as good as it looks live and in person. So if you want to take it to the next step, please go to my website and you can see photos of this and get a better idea of what it actually looks like. But this is a highly figured koa wood on the back of the peghead, which works great. The color just matches beautifully with the koa wood and the tuner buttons. So 1 3/4 at the nut, ebony fingerboard. This has turquoise side position dots. Let's see if you can see those, with a little gold ring around them. Speaking of gold, it has 14 karat gold slashes on the side of the fingerboard for the side position markers, which happens to work great. I did because I thought it looked good, and I had the gold left over from a project I did years ago. I thought, well, this would be a great opportunity to finally use that stuff I've been saving. I mean, why am I still saving it now? But as a pleasant side thing, the gold really picks up the light in a low light situation, so it's great for a side position markers, for the guitar. 25-inch scale fingerboard. This has a German spruce top. At the time I bought it, they told me it was German spruce. I come later to find out it's probably a European spruce. Could be German, but there isn't a lot of German spruce left. And they used to call all this wood German spruce because the wood that came from Europe would get exported through Germany, so German spruce. So I'm not sure where it came from, but it's a European spruce. Nice tight grain, a lot of silk in the grain. Again, I don't know if you can see. This isn't the best light for actual images, but the rosette, koa wood in the center of the rosette, and I have a little step down here. I don't know if you can tell, it's a little step, and the lower rosette is also koa wood. Abalone ring on the outside, mother of pearl ring on the inside. So when I get to doing the abalone and mother of pearl rosettes, I'm looking through my, I gotta hold it. It's so vibrant it starts echoing just from me talking. So when I was getting ready to do the rosettes, I'm looking at my rosettes, and I'm looking at what I have for the rosettes. I'm looking at my pile of rosettes left over, pile of rosettes. So, I'm going to put together a mosaic from rosettes that I've used over the years gone by. And it means a lot to me, so it's just kind of a nice little touch I could do for this guitar. For instance, when I was put this piece out, I see it's a piece of rippled abalone. I go, oh yeah, I remember that ripple. I'd pause for a moment and look at it and go, oh yeah, I remember that rippled abalone. I used it for a show in the late 90s or mid 90s I did up in Pennsylvania, and everyone talking about how pretty it was, the rippled rosettes were, and so rippled rosettes. And then I look at this one with the, where is it? Oh, there, this iridescent blue powell shell. It's unique, and it happens to be left over from the guitars I was building at the time that Brad Paisley got one of my guitars. So this is very likely the same piece that was on his guitar that he has, of mine that he has. And the same story with the mother of pearl on the inside, although that's harder to distinguish between the pieces, what is something that I made and what is something that I just bought off the shelf. But in the early days, it was really hard to find mother of pearl rosettes. You had to make them yourself. So, I can look at some of these like, this piece in here is a little darker. I remember this is one that I cut myself. And what happened was, in Atlanta, there's a big mall called Lenox Square Mall. And coincidentally, they had a store in there called Seashells Atlanta. So I would go buy these seashells that I guess they were supposed to be ashtrays or just art or whatever, these big seashells, and cut them, and then cut them down, sand them down, and cut rosettes out of it. It was a big pain in the ass. So I stopped doing that as soon as I was able to buy the rosettes pre-made. But this dark one here is from those days. So again, it's kind of, for me, it's like a scrapbook looking at the guitar. Okay, so I think at this point, let's stick with koa wood. We'll talk about the koa wood. So it has that high figured koa binding. It has my little mini koa arm bevel. It has a little mini koa rib bevel on the back. A little koa step on the peg head. So the koa is framing the guitar. Now this is not koa wood. This is something I wanted to try and it worked out great. This is the same wood from the mahogany. So when you're playing the guitar, you can see the sense of it connecting to the neck. The neck isn't a separate piece just added onto the box. There's a real connection. Now I build it like that too. The way that I make the neck, the way I attach the neck, I think of the neck as being often a forgotten element in the guitar building because the neck vibration can telegraph into the body too. So to accentuate that, it's the same mahogany that ties in with the neck. So the back and sides. The back is a piece of flame mahogany, and it was quite rare. It's got some smudges. It was quite rare at the time that I milled this up, and I built it quite not that many, maybe 3 guitars out of this stuff. And I just loved the way it sounded, loved the way it looked. So I was saving the last piece for one of my final 4 guitars. So yay, it's time to build a guitar. I didn't have the sides. I don't know what happened to them. So Chris at LMI found me a set of sides where the color just matched beautifully. But the sides are quilted mahogany, and the back is a flame mahogany. So I think it looks great. The flame mahogany came from a tree they call the gentle giant. It's not the tree, the tree is that the tree must have been one huge tree because the tree has been around since the 1980s and people making guitars out of them. So I wouldn't try to purport this as the tree, and it's not as figured as the tree, although it's highly figured. But anyway, they called this tree the gentle giant. Yeah, it's funny, these people, they name these trees as their, I mean, I guess they periodically they come across a tree that's pretty outstanding, so they give it a nickname. So anyway, that's the back and sides. So at this point, I want to talk about the levels. And what I do with the cutaway, I make a little step. So I've been doing this bevel in the cutaway for a long time. I remember the first one I did was actually on a classical guitar, hybrid guitar, Chet Atkins style guitar, and it had a figured abalone veneer. It was a real hassle to do that, but the guy who got it was a real flashy guy. He wanted a lot of pearl, and it looked pretty great. So it has a bevel on the cutaway, but then there's an extra step. So I like just adding a little interest, to the just a little sculpting on the guitar. And this time I added a black line between the bevel and the step. So what I did, the same thing I did on the other guitars, which is the purfling around the top is the same wood that the koa wood binding is cut out of, which, by the way, is old growth koa. It's a real tight grain and it's dark, so it's what they call virgin growth koa, which you can't cut down those trees anymore. But every now and then a hurricane will knock a tree down, and then people swoop on it, and then you can use it. And I had a friend again back in the 90s who was a wood dealer in Hawaii, and he called me because he got some of this stuff. So again, it's a subtlety on the guitar that makes it special to me. So. But this time, since we had the steps, I use steps on all these guitars, but since I put a black line in here, I put a black line between the koa wood binding and the purfling on the top. Again, let's get it in there so maybe you can see what I'm talking about. And of course, that continues along with the arm bevel and all that. And again, with the steps, we're looking at the sound port. There's a little step that steps down to that mahogany, right? And of course, I had to make the inside figured mahogany because the inside's a whole nother story. I'm not going to get into it because I can't show you pictures of the inside of the guitar, except for one thing I want to talk about in a minute. The bridge also is a step of steps. So what it is, people ask if these are different kinds of woods, and they're not. This is one piece of, what is that? Yeah, Macassar ebony. I was looking at it and thinking, is this Brazilian? No, it's Macassar ebony, which is I wanted it to match the fingerboard. And so I carve, actually the old hard way, by hand, I carved some little terrace farm, some little steps in there, and then go back and veneer them with the koa wood, and then added a little black line between the koa woods to go with the rest of it, right? And then into the fingerboard also has a koa wood slash with a little black line. So it all ties together. And this is one thing that I often see in guitars. No one tends to, people get, or look, dealing with the guitar, building it this close. And it's important to step back and look at the whole thing. So for me, the whole thing works together. I don't get to do everything I want to do, but I do what the guitar is asking me to do for the final aesthetic for the guitar. So this is it. What am I forgetting? Highly figured, end pin strip out of Koa wood. It's just a, I don't mean to be bragging, but it's really a beautiful guitar, and it sounds great. That's going to be a next little bit that I'm going to tag on the end of this video. But one last thing, so that I don't forget, is each of the labels in the guitar is a little watercolor my wife paints for the label. And they're actual watercolors. They're not clay prints. They're not, none of that. She paints it actually on a little piece of watercolor paper, and then I make a little frame for it and to go inside the guitar. So this is it's a painting of the scene of fall from our front porch. It's the same with the spring and summer and fall and winter. They're all the same scene, but different times of season, and it signifies the passing of time. So, well, I know I'm forgetting something, but here it is. I'll play you a little song next. So I've adjusted the camera so that you can see more of the guitar than me, although I know I'm so handsome. I did forget something, and that is the color. Of course, this is not a natural mahogany color. I gotta polish this thing again. It gets smudged. This is a color that I thought emphasized fall nicely. It's not red, it's not brown. It's brown with just a drop of red in it. And I just thought it was it just seemed like a really autumnal color. It emphasized fall for me. So, and also adding a little color to the mahogany really helps bring the figure in the wood out. So that's that. Also, the color in the mahogany helps the Koa to pop, because it is a special piece of Koa, and the hue of the color in the mahogany, as you can see on the neck, is similar. So changing that hue in the wood helps everything pop. So that's that. I'm just going to play simply as I can so you can hear the sound of the guitar. So. So my impressions of the tone and playability of the guitar, they're going to be biased, but it's hard to tell with the little microphone and these little cameras what you got. So I'm going to describe what it's like from the driver's seat. It's powerful. Often mahogany guitars, people talk about the clarity of the mahogany. I found it, in my experience, has been almost the opposite. As they get older, they can get muddy sounding, and a lot of times I feel like the potential is there and it's not realized. This is the beauty of Brazilian rosewood. There's a real clarity and snap to the pitch of it. You can tell just by hammering on the wood. Mahogany has kind of a softer vibration. Brazilian sounds almost like a drum, has a real tink to it. This guitar doesn't have that mahogany sound. I like mahogany guitars. Don't mean to be talking them down. Obviously I like them. I built this out of mahogany. I made a lot of guitars out of mahogany. I'm just saying that you can't expect chocolate to taste like vanilla. So now this is a very vanilla-y chocolate. It has a punch and a power that you don't usually see in mahogany. There's a real strength to it, And then if you give it, it's like a racehorse. You give it a little lead, it will let it go. So it's a cannon. I mean, it's that overused word cannon, but it is. It has a lot of power, a lot of punch. And like all my guitars, it has that nice mid-range, meaning that the D and G string don't get lost next to the low E string, and the low E string doesn't drown out the high E string. There's a real balance, and the guitar doesn't crap out as you go up and the strings get shorter. The guitar doesn't change its personality. It's the same guitar here as it is here as it is here. I mean, it's the same instrument, which is always so frustrating when you're playing a guitar that has limitations, because when I play, I'm doing the best I can. And I hate to play into a guitar that, oh, here's a weak spot, I can't play here, I need to go there instead of here. I don't want that. I want the guitar to be better than I am, and that's not too hard to do in my case, but you understand what I'm saying. So it's a pleasure to play, and you know, again, I don't mean to be like the gushing parent talking about how smart their kid is, but it's pretty good. Anyway, well, thank you for taking a moment to have a look at guitar number 824, and that's about all there is to it.